you've got to be aware of it. I mean, we spend a lot of our time sort of working, but also in our spare time, you've got to stay up to date. So last night was a bit of a double-edged one actually, because we were running a live stream of the Google I/O presentation. So had we not been running an event streaming it for a bunch of people, we would be sitting at home watching it probably. Maybe not for the whole thing, because it's gone on for quite a while. Awesome. Did anyone else watch it last night? The Google I/O stream? Yeah. What do you guys think? Yeah,
Today it's in Bulgaria too.
Oh, today it's in Bulgaria. Oh, what, you're doing like a day behind, or what's happening now?
But anyway, it was very, very long.
Yes, unnecessary. But and with failure as well. I mean, Joe briefly touched on failure there, but you need to be prepared for failure, I suppose. I heard someone saying earlier on the stat, which is 9 out of 10 startups fail, which is true. Only 10% of you guys are going to make it with the idea that you've got right now. Myself, I've failed in the past, and it shouldn't be considered a bad thing. You should learn from your mistakes. You should treat failure as a goal almost. I mean, don't set out to fail, but set out with the fact in mind that you probably will fail. I had a startup a year and a half ago before we went full time on 3 Beers, and at the time I thought, it's the greatest thing ever. We were making some stupid photo app that you could photo. Another one of those photo apps basically. And at the time I was too into it. I couldn't take a step back and look at it from an outside point of view, and I was just kind of stuck on a track. And then 9 months later, we ran out of money. We had no users, and we had to call it a day. But at the end of that, you learn so much along the way that you can then take that information and take those learnings and apply those to your next thing. I mean, the thing with entrepreneurs is every successful businessman that you see out there, whether it's Elon Musk or Bill Gates or Stoyan, I guarantee that every one of those people has had many, many ideas in the past that they've tried and have failed. It's all about the process. You've got to learn from those mistakes. You've got to take that information forward and make your next thing more successful because you don't go down the same routes that you did before. Failure is a learning experience. It should be celebrated rather than hidden. Don't be ashamed of your failures. Look out for them and look forward to learning from them. Don't be scared, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Absolutely. And a lot of people say you should always fail fast. I kind of say try not to fail in the first place, but if you're going to fail fast. Yeah. Don't aim for failing fast. That's too easy for a start. And I think part of the whole kind of failure culture and the kind of support around when you think things are going wrong, again, it just comes back to community, collaboration, and openness. Even if you only want to keep the same people kind of in like an inner circle to discuss your business and your business problems, make sure you do that. We've got some close friends that we speak to on a regular basis about the inside of what's going on with 3 Beers. We've got kind of international expansion, we have all these great events, but it's clearly not all plain sailing. No company is. So you've got to have people that you trust and you can speak to. I think the more you can do that, the more you can find the right people for you, the better. I mean, I'm sure even the Bill Gates and the other guys chat.
Yeah, you need to value your peers basically. Like everyone in this room knows different things than you do. And if you talk to them, you'll find out those things. So these events that we're doing, this event you're at now, Silicon Drink About, and Don't Pitch Hero that we do, they're all valuable to learn from others. So Drink About, you're not going there with an agenda most of the time. You're just going there to meet other people. But by that process, you're learning passively. You're absorbing information from these other people, which will help you in your own company. And then if you kind of come along to our Don't Pitch Hero event in London, the guys that are demoing up on stage, they're learning from their peers, the audience of developers and designers and techies in general. They're all there to give feedback to these people and help them along their way. You should always remember that you're not alone when you're working on a startup. There's a lot of people doing the same thing, and it's a massive, massive community of supportive people that all help each other. At least we found that definitely in every community that we've been to. I mean, with Drink About, I mean, we started 3 years ago in London, and it's grown significantly. But in putting that into these other cities, like Sofia, like Amsterdam, Copenhagen, they've all got a need for that community, you know, whether they know it or not. So when I went to Copenhagen, we did the launch out there. Copenhagen is quite a different city to a lot of places with startup hubs. I mean, London obviously has a very concentrated area in East London and Shoreditch, where everyone's sort of in this little bubble, you know. So it's quite hard to miss people. That you bump into people down the street and you share ideas. But in Copenhagen, it's all very spread out. So you know, these people were there; they just didn't realise it. So you know, we brought the drink out to them and gave them a place to go because there wasn't already a physical place. And bringing those people together, as you know, I've talked to Neil quite a lot about this, and Neil's one of the organisers out there in Copenhagen, and he said it's very much brought everyone together. It's given them a focus, you know, and they're all learning from each other. They're all helping each other. They're all paying it forward. It's a very, very collaborative community, and you need to remember that there are people out there that can help you.
And as well as people that can help you, Mike's just mentioned pay it forward. If you're not kind of familiar with the phrase, it's basically help somebody because helping is good. Don't expect to get help in return, but you will get help in return, whether it's from them, whether it's from someone else. So as much as it's great to come to events and learn from people, also remember that people will learn from you and they will learn from your experiences. So don't go and kind of be one of those people that just takes. If you're just starting out, there's probably some information or some experience that you've had in your life that will be relevant to someone else's startup. Even if that's just as a consumer of their startup, giving them a bit of advice on how you would use their software or their app, you can always be helpful to someone in the same way that they'll be helpful to you. So I think the pay it forward one is a big thing for us that we've kind of woven into kind of all of the events that we do, and that's something we really enjoy quite a lot.
I guess one of the sort of final points on this, it's gone very quickly. I guess is education. So you know, knowing what you don't know in a way. So always be willing to fill in the gaps in your knowledge. Don't be the person that goes along thinking you know everything, because you don't. No one does. We don't. You know. If you go through life in that arrogant sort of I know everything attitude, you're going to fail quicker than everyone else. You need to be prepared to fill in the gaps in your knowledge. You need to go to events. You need to read articles. You need to watch presentations. You need to watch live streams. You need to, as an entrepreneur, you need to soak up as much knowledge as possible, because everyone else that's out there is doing the same thing. If you're not, you're going to fall behind. So you need to fill in those gaps basically, and know what those gaps are. And that's sort of why we do the different events that we do in a way, I suppose. So we've got the networking, we've got the feedback, and the learning aspect comes from the event that we do, the Tune of Fact, where we get the people up on stage to share their knowledge. So I said, we sometimes describe ourselves as a bit of a startup for startups. You know, we're a startup ourselves. We're a very small company. We're very lean, as most startups are. But yeah, we kind of fit in the same model as everyone else, you know, and that's why we try and help everyone else with the different aspects we talked about.
Absolutely, and it's interesting to see kind of what's happened in London. We branched out with our events and started running hackathons, but we don't really like. We didn't want to do another app hackathon or another business hackathon, so we decided to do a tech meets art hackathon, which is kind of appropriate in this gallery. And we didn't know how it would go. We tried it. It was one of those kind of things that we thought we'd see how it went. And we did this before we were a business. But it's actually been one of the best things we've done for the business, not that we planned it that way. Because we've now got a reputation of running these events. The first one was 100 people. We had 24, 25 projects that came out of that. And we were lucky enough to show them in a large international art gallery in London to 600 people, which was at the time the way biggest event we've ever done. 2 weeks ago, we did an art hackathon in the Turbine Hall of the Tate Modern, which is one of the premier art museums in London. And I do not know how much it cost to hire that hall. We didn't do that part of it. We just ran the event in there. But we were covered on the main news channels in the UK. There's a whole bunch of stuff online about it. Guardian, Telegraph, BBC. So from something that we just tried as a test, because we didn't want to be those guys that ran another hackathon. We've kind of developed into having this reputation of doing something that we didn't actually know we could do. We did one hackathon. It happened to go really, really well, and we suddenly got known as the hackathon experts, which was amazing.
It's nice, yeah. I mean, Joe's been saying the H word quite a lot recently, and I'm not entirely sure about what level of knowledge everyone in this audience has. So, does everyone know what a hackathon is in here? Okay, not so many actually. So maybe we should explain it. So basically, a hackathon in its most basic form is a period of time where people come together, so developers, designers, business minds, entrepreneurs. They come together for a set amount of time, whether that's a weekend or a couple of days, usually with an overnight or 2 overnights in between. They're given a brief, so the brief could be anything from create an app, or create an insurance program, or some kind of loose brief to get people thinking about what they can do. The idea of a hackathon isn't necessarily to come out of that process with something that is going to make £1 million. The idea of a hackathon is to get people testing their skills, basically, seeing what they're capable of. So you put people in a room for 54 hours straight, and they work throughout that whole time, sleeping maybe a couple of hours in between. The kind of things that people can come up with in that short amount of time is pretty incredible sometimes. I mean, we've seen quite a lot of hackathons now. We've run a few ourselves. As Joe said, we've done a few twists on the hackathon. So where most of these hackathons are all about creating an app or a business, we felt that we didn't want people to have that sort of pressure. At the end of the hackathon, in most cases, people have got to sort of present to a series of judges about how their idea is going to make money, here's the business model, all that kind of thing. We didn't want people to worry about that. We wanted people to purely experience the hackathon in the purest form, which is seeing what you're capable of and seeing what you can create. So naturally, we kind of gave it our own twists, and as Joe's just said, the brief we set was to take any form of data, so whether that's statistics or information you've gathered last week yourself, or information that you generate on the fly at the event, take that data and turn it into something creative. So in its most basic format, that could be something like an infographic. You're taking information and you're displaying it as an image. But what we found is people got a lot more creative than that. I mean, I've got a couple of favourites, one of which is Sid's first one, actually, tuna fish. So Sid's a great guy, in London. So his idea for this hack was to take data and turn it into what? He did, he went out and bought a fish tank on the first day. So he went down to the pet shop, bought a fish tank, and I think the pet shop told him that he wasn't allowed to buy goldfish until the tank had done its filtering thing. So he had to wait an extra day to buy his goldfish. And I'll explain where this is going. He then put the goldfish into the fish tank and set up a green screen behind the fish tank so that he could put a camera against it and detect where the fish were. And then he assigned a grid to the fish tank, so X and Y. And wherever these two fish swam in the fish tank corresponded to a different note, so a different musical sound. And so they end up swimming through this fish tank, and while they're swimming, they're creating music. So he called it Tune a Fish, so tuna fish.
You just like the pun there.
I love the pun.
And as pointless as that may seem, the code that he generated and the image recognition that he learned throughout that process helped him in his business, which is a digital agency. He's actually working in Glastonbury at the moment, doing a kind of crazy light show. So as much as that may seem like a bit of a gimmick behind music and fish, that's actually he's removed himself from his business completely, put himself in a fun environment with a bunch of people that he can learn from and he can help. And he's probably learned some new codes and new skills himself that he can now apply to his commercial products in his agency. So yeah, it was called Tuna Fish. It was funny. The fish lived at Mozilla after that for a couple of years, I think.
So they got stolen.
They did.
And then they died.
Yeah, they got stolen and then they died. Somebody didn't like the tank they were in, so they took them home in a pint glass. They were rescued, but they didn't survive, unfortunately. But
Yeah. The moral of that story basically is that, you know, to be successful, you need to go above and beyond. Basically, these guys that come to these hackathons, they're not going to them because they're being paid to. You know, they're not being paid to come along, and they're giving up their whole weekend, and they're not sleeping, and what they come up with might not necessarily make them any money. They're just doing it because they want to test themselves. They want to see what they're capable of. They want to come up with new ideas and learn new things and work with other people in interesting ways. And I think that's essentially what being an entrepreneur is all about, is having that passion to go forward, to try new things, give up your own time without being paid for it, but purely because you want to learn, you want to get further, you want to do better. And I think that's a very valuable lesson. And I think you should all go to a hackathon if you can.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right, I think it's enough talking from us. Does anybody have a question? Anything? Not anything. We don't know everything. But God, there must be a question somewhere. Who's got an idea then? Who's got an idea for a business that they want to share? So much focus.
Come on, come on.
Hello guys, my name is Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So, where did you struggle? Where you met a problem? What was this problem in starting all of these events, in establishing the Three Beards brand there? And how did you deal with this problem? Probably you can say which was the biggest problem or something like this.
Well, the biggest problem, 100%, is taking an organisation that was effectively a not-for-profit for 18 months, running events that we didn't charge anybody for and was supported solely by sponsorship, was turning that into something that could sustain itself. You know, if you go to a sponsor and you say, you know, can I have £1,000 to run an event? And they say, what are you going to spend it on? You say, oh, well, 600 is going on beer and 400 is going on food. And they go, fine, okay, yeah, we like what you do, we like where you're going to do it, you seem like trustworthy people, here's the money. If you say, can I have £2,000 and 600 is going on beer and 400 is going on food, we're going to keep 1,000 for ourselves.